And it's been a while since I have someone there. I'm gonna get a copyright strike because that sounded so good. Welcome back to Get This Game, where we're all about the board gaming goodness. I'm Jake, and it has been an extremely long time, but I can explain myself. So I haven't been on here for about a month or so, and that is because took some time for vacation, took some time for myself, and while I was away, I actually ended up getting shingles in my eye. Don't recommend getting shingles if you can avoid it. If you have the opportunity to get the vaccine, please go do that. But yeah, it was not fun. Had my eye swollen shut for a few days, had the rash, the whole thing on my face. So needless to say, couldn't get a lot of videos put out and couldn't get a lot of board games played. But happy to say that I am on the back half of kind of the full mend here. My eyes are still a little bit droopy, but I'm hoping it will clear away soon. But I am here today because I got the chance to kind of leap back into board gaming by going to my local board game convention this weekend, which is Breakout Con. This convention is in Toronto right around St. Patrick's Day every year, and it was my first time going. Now, it is definitely very much a bring board games and play type of convention, as opposed to one where a lot of publishers are setting up booths, selling what they have, etc. There were some there that I'm going to talk about a little bit later, but yeah, this was definitely a con where you go to sit down with friends, with like-minded folks, and play a bunch of games. Now, I've been to one other convention before, of course, that being PAX Unplugged, my first convention that I talked about earlier in the year. But in this case, I had the chance to actually know some people who were going, since I'm just about an hour outside of Toronto. So I was actually able to really jump in and dive in and get rid of that kind of social anxiety pretty quickly, because I was able to play a bunch of games with guys that I know. And sure enough, over the course of a day and a half, I ended up playing 10 different games. And so we're going to talk about the 10 games that I played and my first kind of real true board gaming convention experience. Before we get into it, of course, if you like my vibe, if you like what I have bring to the table, then I encourage you to please consider subscribing to the channel. Follow me on my other accounts at Get This Board Game on Instagram, at Get This Game on TikTok, and of course, leave a comment about kind of what you've been up to, what you've gotten to the table that I might have missed over the last couple months being away for so long, and consider turning on notifications, because I am right back into the fold, putting out more videos every week. So when I got there, the first game that I played ending up being a game that literally everyone at the convention had, because the organizers were very kind enough to actually give every single person a copy of the game Push. Push is a very light, simple, push your luck card game where you're going to be flipping over cards on your turn into one of three piles. You can never have the same number or the same color of card in any of the three rows. So as you're trying to build up your hand, you're trying to weigh, okay, what cards do I want to try and get to score me points versus what I want to kind of throw at my opponent. And then you're of course going to choose a moment where you are going to stop and then take one of the piles for your own. Everyone else will do the same, and then play continues around the table. If you ever bust in this game, you are going to have to roll a single die, and then whatever color comes up, you have to then trash all of the cards that you have collected in that color. If it comes back all the way around to you, you do have the option to bank those cards to protect them, but otherwise, I just explained Push to you from beginning to end. This was very, very cool. And I think, as you're going to see a little bit later, I think I might be entering my push my luck era, for lack of a better term. Had a really good experience with this, got a bunch of push your luck games to the table this weekend, and I just think it's a genre that I haven't necessarily been exposed to a lot, or a type of game that I've gotten to try much, but was really impressed by just how quick and snappy these types of games are, and just how the kind of momentum and excitement can build around the table. And at a convention, that is certainly a criteria that you're looking for in a bunch of your games, at least over the course of a couple days. So that one was great. Push. From there, we went from one end of the spectrum to the other with a game of Endeavor Deep Sea. This is a really interesting kind of worker placement, action selection, and allocation game where you are a set of submarines delving into the different depths of the ocean, going to explore different tiles, move your submarine down further and further to maybe do some conservation projects, dive for treasures and DNA samples, ultimately advancing yourself up 4 different kind of core tracks that will basically help you drive your engine to being able to do more on subsequent turns. I love this game. I've only gotten to play it twice, so I haven't given necessarily a formal review just yet, but this game is the perfect kind of level of I guess, thematic integration and being a bit of a Euro game with some more stuff and maybe kind of attacky, combative stuff going on. This isn't an area control game. There's no actual military conflict, but you are feeling the pressure of having to jump to different parts of the ocean, trying to get to do certain actions and take up certain action selection spots before your opponents. You definitely feel that throughout this game. I also love the idea of really min-maxing my turns and advancing up different tracks as quickly as I can, and you're doing a lot of that in this game, which is super important because many of the tracks are going to dictate kind of better crew you get to recruit for your area, and also opening up more action selection, as well as how many action tokens you are going to take and kind of being able to add on, again, future turns. Really great one with this. A Euro with enough kind of player interaction and stuff on the board that I like, so I definitely recommend checking out Endeavor Deep Sea and expect more thoughts on this as we go in the future. Then we played a bunch of rounds of Fellowship of the Ring, the trick-taking game. This is one that has been kind of sweeping the board gaming world for the last little bit. It's been pretty high on the hotness in Board Game Geek, and I can totally see why. Now, disclaimer, I actually got to teach this game because Asmodee Canada sent me a copy, so thank you for that. And I was able to play through the first few chapters through the solo mode, but I had gotten stuck on a very particular chapter in the game, which if you've played the game without any spoilers, I think you know what I'm talking about. It's probably about a third of the way in, and I was struggling a lot. And so I thought maybe if I was able to play this with a bunch of other people and actually have the kind of multiplayer experience that we could get over that hump and actually beat the scenario. So it was nice to kind of have a game that somebody else owned, hadn't played before, and was looking to kind of experience for the first time. Felt good being able to teach that and see it all the way through. And to my surprise and shock, we were actually able to beat the scenario I was talking about, which felt really, really good because it felt like the next couple ones after that, the next couple chapters did feel slightly easier. I think we eventually hit a wall with that one. Beating your head against the wall with a cooperative trick-taking game certainly can be a little bit frustrating, and I think we were kind of feeling the fatigue after a bit, so I'm glad we stopped when we did. But Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game, more to come on this because it is a really cool experience that many have compared to saying being a kind of replacement for other cooperative trick-taking games like The Crew. After a quick dinner break, I was back for a couple kind of final lighter fares to kind of finish off the night as some of my other friends played some heavier stuff and got that going. First up, I joined a completely different group. Shout out to the guys out there who invited me to allow me to join with my friend Daniel. We played No Mercy, which is a kind of vintage push your luck game that is super simple, probably even simpler than Push, but one that I'm glad to say I've kind of checked off my list because I've only heard good things. In No Mercy, essentially, you are just flipping over cards, trying to build up a bank of numbered cards from 1 through 10. If you ever get 2 of the same number in your pile as you're flipping over, you are going to bust and have to get rid of all of those cards. Play is going to continue around the table. If you ever flip over, say, an 8, and there is somebody else at the other end of the table who already has a few 8s, you get to then steal those and add them to your pile. Same thing with the 1s or the 2s. Basically, you're going to choose when to stop, and when play advances, you now have a bunch of cards that you are at risk losing if someone turns over a matching one as well. Again, super light, kind of has to be one you have to sit down and after like a turn, you will straight up just get. There's not a lot of thinking going on here. It is just good push your luck fun. And it is, again, why I think I'm kind of entering that push my luck era, because I was able to play a bunch of these and I just am really finding the mechanics of that and just the kind of feelings that it evokes around the table really, really satisfying and fun. Finally, to end off the night, me and my friend Daniel, I was able to show him Stonespine Architects, another game that I have only been able to play solo, so it was really nice to kind of get over that hurdle and actually play with him. This was sent to me by Thunderworks Games, so thank you so much for providing a copy for a review. In essence, you are dungeon builders, building out a dungeon of connecting tunnels and cards and pathways, filling them with monsters and traps and treasure, trying to make it as deadly as possible based on a kind of preset grouping of scoring conditions actions at the start of the game. The way you're going to be doing that is you'll have a bunch of cards in your hand with different, again, rooms in your dungeon, and you're building it one row at a time by choosing a card to draft and add to your dungeon and then passing them on to other players, kind of Seven Wonders style, getting a new set of hands to then choose from and play again. Over the course of the game, you're going to be building out different rows. You start with a blueprint of cards that basically kind of give you a head start in terms of trying to organize your dungeon and figuring out what traps or enemies you want to put where. This one I really, really like. I don't think it's going to bang down the doors by any means in terms of like everybody has to play this game, but it is another game with a drafting mechanic that is not just Seven Wonders. And I think there's some value there in having something like that on your shelf, especially if you're not necessarily tied to the civilization theme. This one is much more fantasy driven, and if that's your thing, it's going to appeal to you a bit more. But there is also layered onto that, of course, not just that drafting aspect, but a puzzly aspect that you really want to be thinking about and that I enjoy too. You want to make sure that your paths of your dungeon are connecting to as many of the entrances and exits of your dungeon as you can, trying to kind of build out a complete whole with no kind of closed off paths. And of course, again, there's a ton of different variable scoring conditions and objective cards that you can pick up along the way to kind of help you. And then you get to kind of add to your market and kind of add and buy some new tokens to kind of fill out your dungeon as well. So really like this one. Again, not going to be the game of the con or the best game I will ever play probably, but it's solid. It's a solid drafting game, and it's a solid kind of puzzly game too. Day two, I made the mistake of going home and not staying over for the night in the hotel. So I drove home and then came back the next day, getting a bit of a slower start than I wanted. But the first game that I played, I actually think I have right here. Hold on. Oh, here it is. This is Baras from Kids Table Board Games. This is the first KTBG game that I've ever played. And I was impressed with it because of the fact that I have found my wife and I's probably new kind of weeknight game to just kind of set out and play and get a quick game of. Everyone needs these kind of games that are pretty quick to learn. They make you think a little bit, but not so much that you're kind of brain burning the entire night. And it's just got some cute art and a cute little theme. You are capybaras owning a coffee shop, either taking cards and playing down cards in your tableau that match certain symbols. So there's tea symbols, there's coffee symbols, sandwich, soup, etc. Or you are using the bottom half of those cards to fulfill orders. So there are a bunch of customers on the bottom of each card. They're looking for specific orders that you're looking to fulfill, and you will get money if you fulfill that by matching them up with the symbols in your tableau. And like I said, it is light, it is very straightforward. You are playing a card, doing a thing, and then picking up a new card to take, but still enough kind of end game scoring conditions and variability here to make it a little bit more meatier than just a kind of entry level game. So thought it was really cute. Also got to check out the KTBG desk and booth at the con. It's one of the few publishers that does kind of set up shop because they are Canadian, so that was really cool to kind of see their full suite. I think this is one of the last Capybara copies existing in the entire world. I ran down the hall to the ATM to just get money so I didn't have to pay tax on it. But yeah, really happy. I played the game and then I immediately went to go kind of get a copy. Really excited to support Canada too in these kind of trying times. So that was Capybaras. Then I played a big boy, not as big as its older brother, but certainly one that is a good size and kind of fits in that light to light medium sort of weight category, and that was Foundations of Metropolis. So in this game, what you're doing is you are starting with a set of cards that correspond to a grid of land, and you're going to be putting your little deeds onto those different plots of land, basically claiming them so that nobody else can take them. The rest of the game, you're going to be going around the circle, either paying money to take new cards, again, buying up new plots of land that you get to reserve, or you're going to cash in those plots to actually take one of your tiles of buildings, adding them to the board. What is going to happen is it's slowly going to grow, it's going to get tighter and kind of meaner as you are buying up and trying to vie for different plots of land before your opponents, that as it continues again to get crowded. And some of the buildings that you have, as you reveal them, they might give you extra income at the end of the round. They might increase your population, which is a big way you're going to score points at the end of the game. And there are other kind of municipal buildings that are going to, again, feed off of having other types of buildings around them. I thought this was good. I know that Foundations of Rome is the kind of big, epic extra extravagant game that came out before it. The goal of Foundations of Metropolis was to make a more streamlined game while also kind of being at a better price, because Foundations of Rome is frankly just such an absolute monster with respect to just how big it is, how big of a production it is, and how expensive it is. And I think Foundations of Metropolis certainly checked off that box. I just think it's an okay, perfectly fine game. I wasn't blown away by it. I wasn't blown away by its simplicity necessarily. I did like the interaction and just how tight the game gets and you trying to vying for a position. But at the same time, I'm also not necessarily the meanest player out there. So I don't know that I always make the most cutthroat moves to get myself ahead. And sometimes that can be to my detriment. But I just want to have a good time with all my friends. So Foundations of Metropolis, something you might want to check out if you want, again, really strong player interaction with not a very heavy rule set. Just maybe one that I'm good to not necessarily play too much down the line. Next, a couple smaller games before the big kahuna at the end. First off, we played the game Combo. Now, Combo is kind of a hand building game that you're doing collectively together, but it's not cooperative at the same time. Let me explain. Combo was recently remade into the game, and I want to get this right. It is called Surfasaurus Rex. It is essentially the same game with just a weirder, wilder theme. But essentially what you're going to be doing is you're going to have a hand of cards, and you are trying to collectively work together to contribute to essentially a poker hand. You're trying to make straights with the cards that everyone's playing out. You're trying to make flushes. You're trying to make straight flushes. And what is going to happen is at the end of the game, the best scoring hand based on all of the combination of cards that we've collectively put out will score points. The trick is that the cards that you're playing out are going to be valued at different point totals. The 12 card, for example, which is the highest number in the deck, it's only going to be worth 1 point, whereas the 1 point card is worth something like 12 points and everywhere in between. Now, the rub to that, I guess, if you will, is the fact that the higher cards are going to get priority when you figure out what that winning hand is. While upwards of maybe 10 cards are going to be played out in a given round, only the top best 5 cards of the hand are going to actually score. So you're kind of competing along the way to weigh how many points do I want to get versus me actually being able to contribute to a hand, along with how high I have to make it to kind of stay in the mix to actually score. I loved this game a lot. I really want to get a hand on either Surfasaurus Rex or Combo because it created this really cool and kind of funny dynamic where everyone around the table, when you're playing cards, you want somebody else to kind of join in with you and complement your hand that you're going for with what they're playing out. So you're kind of being like, who's going to be Team Blueberry? Up, everyone's got a 6, be on team 6, you're on team 6, right? And then when somebody doesn't do it and goes off on a different path or plays a higher card than you to kind of push you out of getting to score that hand, it creates some big ooh and ah moments that it's just what I live for when you're playing a kind of a lighter card game like that. So had a really great time, would definitely want to try this a few more times, and this seems like a really good game to throw out in front of my family once they start to get it. Really good cottage game, I think. So that is Combo / Surfasaurus Rex. And we played Flip 7, which I don't even know why if I should bring up, honestly, because like it is all the rage right now and nobody can get their hands on a copy. Luckily, a friend of mine from my weekly game night did, and he brought it to the fray. This is a game that is probably the most simple push your luck game that we've talked about. You are going to decide if you want to take a card or say freeze and bank those points, similar to blackjack. And if you ever get 7 different cards of different numbered values, then you will kind of automatically win or at least score big points. Similar to No Mercy, if you get 2 of the same card, that is when you kind of bust and have to stop, and then you don't get to get any of the points. And what's also interesting is you're playing around with the actual value of cards that you have, because there are 12 12s in the deck, there are 7 7s, there are 4 4s. So part of the game is if you can get at least half decently good at kind of counting cards, you can judge and kind of weigh just when it makes sense to stop and when it does make sense to keep going. Throw in a few kind of extra cards here with special powers, like getting a kind of second chance that lets you take a card of the same value without going out, as well as a freeze card that might force somebody to stop and pass and potentially axe them out from getting a lot of points. This one really comes together in a nice, smooth, quick playing, very loud package, because again, this is another one where you're going to get those, I can't believe he did that sort of moments. And as we enter into my last game, the big kahuna of the weekend, I have to take a second and just thank the group of dudes that I have gotten to know through my local board gaming night that I then got to spend an entire weekend at this convention. I, as you might have known, and I might have told you back in the day, started going to a weekly game night, really had to work up a lot of courage to kind of put myself out there and kind of meet some new people in a setting that I wasn't necessarily comfortable in. But ever since then, being able to go in subsequent weeks, getting to know these guys, getting to know what they like to play, what they don't like, and just being invited into that circle to just do something that we all collectively love, I just truly appreciate. These guys are probably not going to watch this or see this or even necessarily know that I do this, but I do want to shout them out because they have been such cool bros. And I think the culmination of that was when I got to sit down and break out one of their brand new copies of Galactic Cruise. Oh my gosh, this game is once again all of the rage. Was out and kind of available to check out at PAX. I kind of kept my distance from it. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it, but I have to give kind of full credit where credit's due in terms of this being a fulsome, complete sort of true Euro experience. In Galactic Cruise, you are the managers of a cruise company, but you're not going in the water, you are going in space. And the entire game is cycled through this worker placement system where you are kind of feeding off different actions to choose what destination you're going to go on, what types of guests you're going to want to invite. Are they going to be more adventure-focused guests? Are they going to be more leisurely? Are they going to be very family-focused activities? And from there, you start building out the spaceship with amenities. Okay, I have a bunch of kind of relaxed, chill guests that I know are going to be coming on my ship next. So maybe I want to add a spa to my spaceship. These families are going to want to do something fun, so I'm going to add this merry-go-round or adventure park within my spaceship. You're going across these different actions, picking up some agenda cards, which are kind of game-breaking, huge swings of play opportunities, and then ultimately you're going to choose to go out on that voyage and kind of tick along this track that you have set up for yourself, again, visiting different planets, doing different excursions, and being able to cash in as many points as you can by kind of optimizing the type of cruise that you are taking on and the guests that you're taking with you. Everyone at the con was kind of going past and saying, how is this not a Vital Lacerda game? Lacerda known for his extremely complex Euros with a lot of meat to them. And I haven't played a Lacerda game necessarily, but based on what I know, I can totally see where everyone was coming from. This is as Euro gets. And I think there's a lot of value in it. I think it's helping me realize exactly what type of Euro I prefer. I don't think necessarily I would ever not call myself a Euro gamer. I think I definitely gravitate towards that style of play. But I think I'm starting to learn that I really appreciate a system like this, but it's not necessarily going to be the thing that gets me most excited about a Euro game. And I haven't quite put my finger yet on just why a really complex, kind of very Euro-y Euro like that doesn't get me as excited as something like Distilled, which is again very kind of solo kind of or multiplayer solitaire, but I still kind of get a little bit more out of it. I still have a kind of question mark over why that is, but what I do know is I loved my first play of Galactic Cruise, and I have full expectation and full respect for everything that it does in terms of its design. It was super cool, had a great time with it, came in last by about 60 points, but that's okay. I knew going in that I wasn't going to be banging down the doors in terms of getting all the points in the world. But yeah, this one kind of made me take a step back and think, this is a really great design. I really respect it. I enjoy playing it. It's just not necessarily completely going to be my number one type of game, and that's okay. So I think I'm still kind of on this soul search, and I got to thank Galactic Cruise for that, because I just thought I was a straight up Euro gamer. Now I think I like different tiers, and I think I respect certain designs over others in terms of enjoyment versus kind of design and mechanisms. I got a lot going in my head that I have to figure out, but that shouldn't take away from Galactic Cruise being an excellent design and an excellent experience that you should check out. So that was 10 games. Along the way, I kind of fit in some food with friends, certainly fit in checking out the Bring and Buy, which I think I might just have to participate in because some of my friends came home with absolute bank at the end of the day. And if nothing else, I might just find some of the grill games that I am looking to add to my shelf ultimately next time I go. But Breakout Con, if you're in the Toronto or GTA area, area. Highly recommend you check it out for next time. I'm definitely going to be there next year, and I hope you do come up and say hi if you happen to see me or stumble upon me. But there's lots of gaming and lots of stuff happening and lots of events to tide us over until next March. So for now, that is going to be it for this episode of Get This Game. I'm Jake. Again, please consider subscribing. Leave me a comment. Were you at Breakout Con? What did you see, do, hear, taste, feel? I better stop this video while I'm ahead. Please consider subscribing. Again, leave a comment, turn on notifications, follow me on my other social channels, and as always, thanks for playing with me.